stability in the grid, and what are those actions to be taken. So we have a very eminent panel, and before the panel, we also have some of the uh, special addresses. I would just want to talk about a bit of the structuring. We'll have the Honorable DG giving the welcome address and the setting the context. Thereafter, we have from intervention from the Guinea. Uh, I think Fiji, the Honorable Minister is not here, and the Nigeria also, the Honorable Minister is not there. But I would request for the uh, uh, we have from the Guinea, Nimaba, who's the Chief of Cabinet. She's here. They will have a small interventions in the initial phase. Thereafter, we will have a presentation uh, by Mr. R.K. Tyagi. Unfortunately, the president of ISA also could not reach here. So we'll have a presentation, and thereafter we have a panel discussion, which is eminent panel have from various organizations representing the finance, World Bank, the grid operations, and all these things. So with that, I would request Dr. Ajay Mathur, the Honorable DG, to give the setting the context. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you very much. And a very warm, I guess, afternoon now to all of you. Welcome to this discussion. We are here because we all agree that renewables make sense. Question is, how do they make sense? Do they very clearly renewables make sense when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing? Very, very clearly. But in all our countries, in all our developing countries, energy demand is increasing. And if energy demand is increasing, that implies that yes, you can add renewables which meet the load when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, but what when it is not? This implies that we need to focus on very different means. We need to focus on storage. We need to focus on hybrid systems and hybrid between renewables and fossils to begin with. This leads to the issue of grid integration and, in my view, also of enabling grid stability. There have been all kinds of movements. Uh, in India, the variable renewable energy is now what? Approximately 14% or something of that sort. In certain parts of the world, it is as high as 30%, but everywhere it is backed up by energy of a more robust source. We have in the past also seen how the integration occurs. The integration at a grid level occurs, first of all, if you have a grid integration, a grid management company who can, as for example, in the evening when the solar energy starts to fall, some other energy source is brought in. In many parts of the world, there is a huge advantage of being located next to a country with a lot of hydro resources. For example, Germany being located next to Norway. And therefore, the kind of demand that is there is met by hydro as solar reduces. And hydro can be turned off as solar comes up. But now we lead to a new problem, which is if you are thinking of integrating for grid stability various kinds of storage devices such as pumped hydro or batteries, then they are at various points of time acting as users of energy and at other times acting as suppliers of energy. How does the grid manage it? In other words, there are a lot of questions as far as grid stability is concerned. We at ISA were very proud when, together with the Power Grid Company, we hosted three batches of 20 students, of 20 engineers each from the West African Power Pool, and looked at the operation of the stability of the Indian grid, on how, with the addition of variable energy, you could still make the grid to be stable. We are looking forward, therefore, to learning from the kinds of experiences that are occurring across the world, both in terms of the creation of the problem, but also in terms of the creation of the solution. I look forward to this discussion and for us to all go away with new ideas, with new approaches, and with new ways in which to look at grid stability in the view of increasing variable renewable generation. Ramesh, over to you, and thank you very much.
Many thanks, Honorable DG, for your setting the context and giving the welcome address. Now I would call upon Her Excellency Nima Bha, Chief of Cabinet, Ministry of Energy, Hydraulics and Hydrocarbon, Republic of Guinea, to give her opening remarks on that.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tous. Je vois pas de dame. Bonjour, messieurs. C'est dommage. Alors, aujourd'hui, on est en train de parler d'une question très importante pour le monde entier, mais en particulier pour les pays africains. Le cas de l'intégration des énergies renouvelables, je dirais du solaire en particulier, euh, sur l'hydroélectrique, c'est le cas de mon pays. Hier, je rappelais ici que la Guinée, 75% de sa production énergétique provient de l'hydroélectrique. Et aujourd'hui, nous sommes vraiment confrontés à des problèmes terribles de niveau d'eau dans les barrages par manque de pluviométrie suffisante. Et on est dans le cadre du WAP où nous sommes supposés fournir à la sous-région de l'électricité. Donc, déjà, nous commençons à avoir des problèmes de quantité d'énergie à évacuer. Les besoins se font de plus en plus énormes et ce dont nous disposons n'est pas suffisant. Parallèlement, il faut assurer la transition énergétique. Donc, vu toutes ces questions-là, les autorités guinéennes ont pensé qu'il fallait intégrer le voltaïque sur les barrages. Nous avons des projets qui se dessinent où nous allons avoir des centrales flottantes sur les barrages dont nous disposons. Nous avons également des initiatives privées au niveau des zones rurales où quelques partenaires privés produisent de l'énergie du solaire. Mais la question qui se pose aujourd'hui, comment intégrer cette énergie solaire au dispositif de l'hydroélectrique? La deuxième question, comment gérer cette intégration de manière durable et rationnelle, de manière à ce que le voltaïque apporte ce qu'il faut au moment où il faut et donner suffisamment d'énergie à tous ceux qui en ont besoin. Sur cette petite note d'introduction sur le cas de la Guinée, je voudrais donner la parole quand même au directeur national de l'énergie qui va dire un petit mot sur la situation en Guinée. Je vous remercie.
Bonjour, moi c'est Doumbouya Mambi, directeur national de l'énergie. Merci, monsieur le modérateur. Merci, madame, de m'avoir passé la parole. Comme vous venez de le dire, effectivement, dans notre pays, notre réseau évolue en mix énergétique. Nos systèmes de production ont bien du solaire, non seulement de l'hydroélectricité, et aussi un peu du thermique. Effectivement, comme madame vient de le dire, 75% de notre production vient de l'hydroélectricité. Donc, la stabilité du réseau, comme le dit tout de suite le premier narrateur pour pouvoir introduire le sujet, cette stabilité du réseau, cette question se pose chez nous. Et là, nous sommes en train de le gérer. Nous sommes en train de le gérer parce que hybrider nos centrales hydroélectriques avec du solaire, ça devient des moyens pour pouvoir hybrider, pour pouvoir calculer la stabilité du réseau en fonction, comme ça a été dit. De l'autre côté aussi, nous sommes en train de développer en milieu rural des zones d'électrification par mini-réseau, le solaire un peu avec du thermique. Mais en fonction de l'évolution du réseau national, le réseau de transport national, chaque fois que le réseau évolue, que ça atteint un village, ce village est intégré et partir directement sur le réseau. Donc, les mini-réseaux sont calculés, sont établis, installés de façon que, sur du temps, ils peuvent être accordés au réseau national. Il y a tout un système de contrôle de systèmes de stabilité qui sont mis en place, qui sont calculés pour que cette intégration puisse se faire. De l'autre côté, avoir de la stabilité par rapport aux phénomènes naturels, parce qu'il y a des moments où le solaire puisse chuter un peu parce que cause des nuages. Ce moment, avec la stabilité, reviendra des autres sources comme de l'hydroélectricité qui est la base de notre production. Donc, sur le grand réseau national, c'est l'hydroélectricité qui est à la base. Donc, c'est sur ça que nous souhaitons ajouter du solaire pour que on puisse fournir confortablement la demande d'énergie que les clients demandent sur le réseau sans avoir beaucoup de difficultés. Cette stabilité est donnée par les grandes centrales hydroélectriques dont les systèmes solaires et d'autres énergies renouvelables viendront s'ajouter là-dessus. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Honorable Excellency Nimaba, to give your remarks, followed by the director from Energy from Republic of Guinea. Now I would call upon Her Excellency Linda is not there. I'll request, I think Honorable Minister from Nigeria also couldn't come here, but I would request the national focal point from Mr. Abubakar to deliver the address on behalf of Honorable Minister. Over to Mr. Abubakar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, apology. My Honorable Minister Chief Adebayo Adelabu, he couldn't be here. He's having meeting with our president in another different session, so he asked me to represent him. But hopefully tomorrow he will be here with ISA on the One World, One Solar, One Grid, session. I just want to briefly, speak the mind of the Honorable Minister, which he asked me to represent him on grid solar integration in Nigeria. As we are speaking today, we don't have grid solar connected directly to the national grid. The reason is the grid has to be robust, and as we are talking, 70% of our grid is from thermal generation and 30% is from hydro. And for you to have a grid interconnected solar, you must have a very robust and stable grid. But what Nigeria is doing now through the transmission company of Nigeria and some of our development partners, we are studying the grid. We are doing the grid studies to see how much the grid will integrate, how much solar the grid will absorb, which the study is ongoing. And in the next 2-3 months, I believe the study will be completed because the transmission company is championing that. But I know in Nigeria, we have a lot of solar installation, both embedded generation, off-grid, and rooftop connections through our development partners and through government intervention. We have done in a lot of, communities and settlements. Also, we have also considered productive use of electricity As I'm talking, Nigeria has, implemented the first 10 megawatt solar embedded through the distribution companies, through the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. And also from the ministry end, also we just awarded 10 megawatt solar to hybridize one of our 10 megawatt wind farm that has been completed for long. Now work is ongoing. And also that one is going to be through the distribution company through 33 kV to evacuate the power. But our collaboration with the International Solar Alliance, based on the meetings we've had during the last assembly, and also at the energy transition that the Indian presidency hosted, we want to leverage from the Indian experience to see how and what are the policy and regulatory frameworks that Indian, could be able to achieve to integrate more than 350 megawatts to our grid. And from Nigeria end, we now realize that there has to be a robust policy and regulatory framework to do that. And government cannot do everything. You will need the cooperation and also working together with the private investors. Because private investors, they are the drivers of the economy. And government has to come with robust policy and regulatory framework, which were pleaded to ISA, and ISA is going to send a team of experts to Nigeria in the second week of December, so that we can interact with the policy, our family in Nigeria, to really tell us what are those policy and regulatory frameworks that India could be able to do what they did. So at this juncture, let me just take it a brief, since we have a panel discussion. So this is the situation of Nigeria, and Nigeria is trying to, because with the abundant solar that we have in the region, both from the north to the southern part of the country, we are looking forward to really harness this natural resource so that we can integrate as much as solar into the national grid. But as I mentioned, first, regulatory framework, how the tariffs are going to be, the investment, and also the guarantees and assurances that will be for the investors. Once you get that one, I believe investors will come and, with government policies to turn around the development of power and integration of solar to the grid. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Mr. Abubakar, for giving that remarks on behalf of the minister. Uh, in fact, the very idea of these discussions is to the disseminate or the share the best practices and knowledge based on the learnings from Indian experience. Is one of the largest grids operated across the globe and how it's managed there. Many of these learnings we would like to share with the countries. So that's the very objective of this session. So with that, taking forward in the with it in line with this objective, I would request Mr. R.K. Tyagi, Director of Operations from Power Grid of India, is one of the largest network of grid across the globe, to give a presentation. Over to Mr. Thank you. Thank you.
Will be shown the screen. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected dignitaries from various countries. Today, I'll be talking about experience of India about grid integration for renewable energy. We are talking about energy transition. So one phrase is there: no transmission, no transition, no grid integration, no energy transition. So with this, I will share our experience. How to change? Yeah. In India, we have about 424
gigawatt installed capacity as on today, out of which we have about 56% from thermal and about 44% from non-fossil fuel. By 2030, the non-fossil fuel will be almost 65% and fossil fuel will be about 35%. The non-fossil fuel will be more than 500 gigawatt, consisting of about 56% solar, about 19% about wind, then hydro 10%, nuclear and other parts. This is the transmission network of Indian grid. You can see that we have 765 kV, we have 400 kV, we have 220 kV, 132 kV, 800 kV HVDC network, and 500 kV HVDC network. About 220 kV, we have about 476,000 circuit kilometer, consisting of 765 kV 53,000 circuit kilometer, 400 kV about 199,000, 220 kV 203,000 circuit kilometer, and HVDC about 90,300. Out of which Power Grid is operating about 176,000 circuit kilometer, and MVA capacity we have about 512,000 MVA, 275 substations, and 99.85% availability is maintained. Our total Indian grid is integrated. We have a total one grid, one frequency. That means power generated anywhere in the Indian network can be transmitted to any other part of the country. These are the energy resources. Hydro we have in northern and northeastern part of the country, like Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Arunachal Pradesh. Coal we have in central India, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Jharkhand, and solar and wind, that is renewable energy, we have spread across the country. Major potential is Tamil Nadu in south, Andhra Pradesh in South India, Karnataka also in south, then Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Madhya Pradesh. These are the major potential areas. Otherwise, there is a lot of sun in all parts of country, and we have renewable energy potential everywhere. But these are the major sources. The potential which we are going to tap in Rajasthan is about 115 gigawatt, Andhra Pradesh 15 gigawatt, Gujarat 42 gigawatt, Karnataka about 24, Telangana 13 gigawatt, Maharashtra 14 gigawatt, and major potential will is Bhadra, Fatehgarh, Bikaner, Jaisalmer, and these are the concentrated areas where we are having lot of solar energy. These are load centers. Northern region we have about 80,000 megawatt, western region about 74,000 megawatt, and southern India about 60,000 megawatt. We have inter-regional capacity about 112,000 megawatt in 2023. Like we have interconnection between NRWR, WR southern region, SR to ER, ER to WR, ER to northern region, then northeastern region to NR, and then northeastern region to eastern region. By 28-29, this inter-regional capacity is going to increase by 133,000 megawatt. That means the power of the order of about 133,000 megawatt can be transmitted from one region to another region. So power generated in southern region can be transmitted to northeastern region, or power generated in northeastern region can be transmitted to northern part of the country, that is Jammu and Kashmir. So if we have this inter-regional grid integration, then only this renewable integration is possible. We are able to manage this huge asset transmission system by innovative asset management practices, by using drones, by using augmented reality and virtual reality, patrolling by helicopters, then LiDAR, and then we have control center at NTMC Manesar, condition monitoring of various equipments, and health indexing. As our Honorable Prime Minister, he has announced 5 nectar elements of India's climate action for energy transition. We have to reach 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel energy capacity by 2030, 50% of its energy requirements from renewable by 2030, reduction of total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now to 2030, and reduction of carbon intensity of the economy by 45% by 2030 over 2005 levels, and achieving the target of net zero emissions by 2070. What are the challenges in renewable energy integration? The output is intermittent and variable. The seasonal dependency and uncertainty, short gestation period. That means the solar or wind power can be established at a shorter time, but transmission line takes a lot of time. And in a less inertial support because no moving mass is there. Transmission maintenance, because in daytime mostly solar energy is maximum. That time shutdown, or when we have to maintain the transmission system, the shutdown availability is a constant. So we had to do in night time. What are the mitigation measures? For short gestation period, we have planning and development of evacuation system in advance. Based on the potential renewable energy zones, we have developed green energy corridors. For intermittency, enlarging balancing area through transmission expansion. If we have a strong grid, then energy balancing is possible. And ancillary support services, forecasting of renewable output. We have about 13 renewable energy centers, and variable output for mitigating this requirement is balancing resources, dynamic reactive power compensators like STATCOM and SVCs, energy storage systems, pumped storage hydro plants are being developed. Then for initial support, synthetic inertia from inverter or wind turbines, energy storage system, and synchronous condensers. The typical balancing mechanism, we have solar, wind, or hydro and thermal. So in daytime there will be solar generation, and nighttime there will not be solar generation. So balancing this requirement is a challenge which can be achieved by the mitigation measures what we have mentioned. For support infrastructure, we have 20 numbers of hybrid STATCOMs, about 11,000 MVR capacity, spread in almost all parts of the country. 4 numbers of SVCs, about 2,500 MVR, and 48 numbers of fixed series capacitors and thyristor control series capacitors for varying power transfer capacity. Then we have 13 numbers of REMCs, Renewable Energy Management Centers, 9 numbers at state level, 3 numbers at regional level, 1 number at national level. If you see here that we have bulk power transfer, this transmission system by 765 kV lines, and then this 800 kV HVDC, we have 3 numbers with capacity of 18,000 megawatt or 18 gigawatt, Then 5 numbers of 500 kV HVDC bipole, about 10.5 gigawatt. One number VSC at 320 kV for 2 gigawatt. One numbers HVDC back to back, 3 gigawatt. And now 3 numbers more 800 kV HVDC bipoles are being planned of 6 gigawatt each capacity. And one number 350 kV HVDC from northern part of the country, from Leh to Delhi, 5 gigawatt is planned. If we have to integrate 500 gigawatt by 2030, so planning is already there, out of which we have commissioned 168 gigawatt by December 22, and next phase 60 out of 66.5 gigawatt, 9.5 gigawatt is also commissioned in 2023. Balance 57 gigawatt is under implementation. And in phase 3, 236.6 gigawatt consisting of 55 gigawatt and 181 gigawatt. These are under various stages of approval and implementation or tendering. So by next 3 years or 4 years, these 236 gigawatt transmission system will also be commissioned. So by 28, 29, we have to set up this 236.6 gigawatt plus 57 gigawatt transmission capacity, out of which 57 gigawatt is under implementation, about 100 gigawatt is under tendering, about another 100 gigawatt is under planning. Other than that, 33 gigawatt margin is already available in existing ISTS system. ISTS is interstate transmission system, our grid, and 43 gigawatt will be additionally green energy corridors, phase 1 and phase 2, and additional hydro capacity about 16 gigawatt. So put together, we will have a transmission system capacity for more than 500 gigawatt. So it is a very huge plan which is to be completed by 2029. So that before 2030, when target is there by Government of India, the integration of grid should be available. Apart from solar, we have wind, offshore wind. We are planning. 37 gigawatt is already announced, which is to be set up by 2030. Out of which 10 gigawatt is already identified, 5 gigawatt in Gujarat and 5 gigawatt in Tamil Nadu. Distance from normally what we have planned is about 40 to 50 kilometers from onshore, and depth of water is about 10 to 20 meter. So through VSC, we plan to transmit or evacuate this wind power. Already, 2 plants of 1 gigawatt in Gujarat and 1 gigawatt in Tamil Nadu are under approval, and very shortly they will be taken up for implementation. There was one query about regulatory framework. We have to have, uncertainly, we have regulatory framework. It is not possible to integrate such a large network. So we have separate connectivity procedures for renewable energy. And waiver of ISTS transmission charges for solar and wind. The projects commissioned up to June 2025, the transmission charges are waived off. The transmission system for RE additional component for ISTS charges. The technical standards have been developed for connectivity to the grid, and incentivizing flexibility, technical minimum margin 55% for thermal units. Balance as ancillary services. Now this limit is further going to be reduced to about 40%. And green energy open access, that means green energy being traded in open market. And power market, green ahead, green day ahead, these markets have been set up. And notification of connectivity and regulations in 2022. And round the clock renewable energy consisting of thermal, wind, and solar, that is being set up, that is being auctioned. What is the way forward? The transmission for 500 gigawatt renewable energy has been planned and almost planned, and some are under planning. And dynamic compensation to maintain system parameters and grid stability are to be augmented. Compliances for technical standards for connectivity, then energy storage systems, demand side flexibility, innovative maintenance practices, skill and reskilling of workforces, capacity building. These are the way ahead what we have in for integration of this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very large amount of information in a short time of 10-15 minutes. But you have covered all the aspects of the renewable integration, whether it is flexibility, ancillary system, maintenance package. Thank you for that. And it's just a beginning, and then we would have more such dissemination of information, of exchange of information, so that the upcoming projects, maybe in Africa and all, can benefit what we have learned in India. Many thanks for your presentation. So with that, we will go for a panel discussion so that we can have a complete 360-degree views uh, on various aspects of how the going forward, the globally and the regional wise, how this integration can be very effectively managed, because the globe will look for more and more uh, intermittent power, so that everybody is looking at a net zero targets in the next maybe 20 or 30 years. With that, I will a request for a panel discussion. So I'll be requesting the panelists to come to the uh, podium, and so to the seats. I'll request Mr. Daniel Schroth, Director Renewable Energy from AFDB, Mr. Rajiv Kumar Powal, Director System Operation Grid India. Yeah, please come. Mr. James K. Mahagos, Secretary General EAPP. Uh, Mr. Timothy Naleba is General Manager from Fiji. That's a public rental board. Mr. Govind Rajulu is already here. Thank you, sir, for coming here. Mr. Niroj Chandra Mondal, the National Focal Point and Joint Secretary, Power Division, Bangladesh. And Mr. N.K. Panda, Chief Business Acquisition Officer, Sterlite Power. I'm sorry that we are a bit of congested here. Sorry for that. But yeah, nevertheless, we have a very powerful panel here. And I'm sure representing all aspects of the learnings and integration from various various organizations and countries, and the uh, 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 and representing various aspects of integration. Uh, Let me have I'll have one round of uh, questions to the panelists, and if time permits, we'll go for a second round. And so I will come in the order. So starting with Mr. Daniel Shaw, the Director of the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficient Department, AFDB. ISA has been fortunate to have a lot of discussion with you, and you have been driving the investment part of it in the Africa. So I would request for your views on how do you see infrastructure across African nations. What are the key financial instruments or tools that can ensure effective grid integration for renewable energy, particularly in remote or underserved areas? Uh, you have been supporting the countries and the various regional transmission system. So how do we look at the innovative financing models which we can uh, talk about it and which will be useful for the all the countries and benefit from your learnings? Over to you, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's a pleasure being here in the ISA Pavilion at COP, and also appreciate the close collaboration with ISA over the last couple of years, and certainly a cooperation that we intend to deepen going forward. Maybe let me just start by highlighting 2, 3 sort of facts, figures to set the context a bit further. I think one is when we talk about solar in particular, I think everyone is aware that Africa has 60% of the world's best solar potential, yet less than 2% of the world's installed solar generation capacity is in the continent. So there's clearly a fundamental mismatch. The reasons are obviously multifaceted for that. There are actual risks, there are perceived risks, but also the aging infrastructure, transmission infrastructure, the difficult state of many African utilities also play a role and are sort of a reason for this mismatch as well. So the various kind of factors that come into play. Second is that there's an interesting figure from the International Energy Agency from an Africa Energy Outlook report last year, which indicated that investment in Africa in transmission would need to increase to $10 billion per year, which is more than 3 times sort of the investment that has happened in African grids over the 2016 to 2020 period. So it's a very significant increase required. And that's even if we look at the national level. I was just going through recently the implementation plan of South Africa's just energy transition. And one figure struck me where they highlighted that there's a need over the next decade to bring on 1,500 kilometers of transmission lines on an annual basis, which is 10 times what Eskom, the utility in South Africa, has been sort of investing in transmission over the last 3 years. So the challenge is really tremendous. And really from our side, we're intervening on a couple of areas. I think one is very important, the upstream part on the planning side. I think one kind of type of support that we've been providing increasingly in recent years is support to countries on grid integration studies. For example, in the context of our Desert to Power initiative that is focusing on the Sahel countries, we're currently undertaking these studies in cooperation with the utilities in Mauritania, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Chad. This is really critical sort of to assess the capacity of the current grid to integrate more variable renewables, particularly from solar, but also sort of to identify what are the investments that are required to increase power system flexibility, to increase the capacity ultimately of the grid to integrate more variable renewables. The second is obviously our investments. I think one area that is becoming increasingly important, it's not a panacea, but it becoming increasingly important is on battery energy storage solutions, both sort of at the utility scale, but also in connection with new kind of generation capacity. So rather than sort of just looking at independent power producers for solar generation on a standalone basis or wind or other, sort of to have this combined with a storage component. And from our side, through our Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, which is our largest blended finance facility at the African Development Bank, we can provide also concessional finance to make these battery energy storage solutions bankable. And we're also pleased to partner with the Global Energy Alliance on the Battery Energy Storage Consortium that will be launched later today, with several African countries having expressed interest to be part of that initiative. Maybe let me highlight one last point just on this sort of generation capacity element, and I would just like you to mention that we signed earlier this year a letter of intent to work together with the International Solar Alliance and NTPC on the structuring and planning of solar parks in Africa. And I think one key aspect of that will be to make sure that these solar parks are properly integrated in the planning of how they will be integrated to the grid, how battery energy storage solutions can play a role in this context. And I think this collaboration with the African countries will offer a good prospect to make that happen in a clear and in a structured way. But that, well, maybe in the interest of time, I'll stop here for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel, for the highlighting the important aspects of financing and including the current state of affairs in Africa. I think that brings to us to see in next 10 years there is lot of potential for development of renewable energy there. In fact, I think in Africa can, without going through an energy transition, they can straight look through the renewable demand and the energy access. And of course, the if we plan it properly, including the development of the new transmission system, the battery storage, and the innovative financing model, you talked about it, and I'm looking forward for our collaboration and along with NTPC and even the transmission majors, so that we can take the lessons from what we learned and have a very optimum solutions for the Africa. Many thanks for that. So now with that, let me come to Mr. Rajiv Kumar Porwal, the Director System Operation of Grid India. So Grid India is one of the biggest the grid operators across the globe, and you must have experienced all kind of issues for last maybe 6 7 years, where the very philosophy of operating the grid has gone through a major transition, because uh, India has been aggressively adding more and more solar and the wind power. So I would request you to give some of the major lessons which you can talk about it, which will be very useful for other regions and the countries. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. Definitely, India has a very big target, and we have achieved also. As we go along, we have to add 500 gigawatts of by 2030. In this, two things are main. Basically, for renewables, there are two very important things. One is from frequency side, another is from the technical side. How IVR behaves and what resources behaved in the grid, that is also very important, because if more and more are IVR based resources in the system, they will interact with each other. And because they are very fast, so they can also produce a lot of instability in the grid. So these two things has to be kept in mind. One is from frequency stability, that all the time you need power when it is demanded by the. So for that, forecasting is most important thing, that we need to forecast the load. We need to forecast the generation, which was earlier was supposed to be that, okay, we can anytime we can get this generation, but now we have to forecast generation also from the renewables, that how much generation is going to give the next day or next hour. So that has been a real challenge, and we have to invest from all over the world. We have to invest a lot on the improving our forecasting methodologies. Second point has to be that how these new resources, when sun is not shining, when if we go move to very high, currently we have a say maximum solar and renewable intervention has been in around 33 to 34% at any point of time in the country, which will increase, keep on increasing slowly and slowly. And as a FBC, so if this keeps on increasing, then definitely we need to have some flexible resources which can come at different point of time. If solar sun is not shining because of any cloud cover or wind is not blowing, so we need to have some resources which can come during that time. So because of that flexibility in our thermal resources, because we are predominantly thermal resource country, and almost to say, as Tyagi has mentioned, that around 56% in capacity term. But from energy side perspective, we are from 70 to 80% of energy is being met from thermal. So thermal flexibility becomes very important. And that is why, as Tyagi also mentioned, that it is 55% currently we are turned down level. We are going below that 40%. Say we are targeting that we will say go to 40% and then further below. We will need certain interventions for that. So from that flexibility, also hydro, from hydro side also, how much say reservoir based resources we can bring in the system. So a lot of emphasis on pump storage, and then lately the energy say from the battery storage systems also we are going ahead with a lot of they will be coming in future. Some of the has already come, but say larger one to the connected to the grid will be coming. So that is from this is from the frequency stability and energy adequacy side of point of view. Regarding the technical challenge from the IBR side, the regulations or the standards becomes very important. That is also need to be understood, because all over the world we have seen there are have been number of incidents with involving IVR, whether it is Australia, whether it is UK, whether it is say Germany, whether it is USA. Everywhere there has been issues with these inverter-based resources. So how we set the resources, these settings of these resources, what the capabilities of these resources, whether they are capable of doing certain things, that also comes with through the standards. So standards are very, very important, and we need to set the standards and also follow those standards. Compliance of those standards is equally important from the solar and wind manufacturer side. So benchmarking of their capabilities, and then whether they provide during. So when we integrate these resources, the integration studies becomes extremely important. And whether this is a planning body or whether it's operating body, they has to be they have to show that they can perform during different conditions, and they will not jeopardize the stability of the grid. So these things from the Indian perspective to the say different countries, these are the very, very important fundamental things which need to be done. Regarding say we also say that market complements reliability. So that is why we have also gone ahead with a lot of market interventions in our country, and that is also good. So people have a very we have a very solid settlement system, very robust say deviation settlement mechanism, where if anybody deviates, that has he has to penalize or incentivize accordingly so that he behaves properly. Second thing is that we have gone for shorter duration interval of market. So people, whenever there is a, they can, they if they are not able to forecast better in a day ahead or say long term basis, then they can forecast a very near right term. So that forecast will be good. So based on that, they can square off their positions in the market and can again remain balanced. So all these for this is very important for the all the balancing authorities. Say that we if we were saying about the West African power pool, so different countries they can become a balancing party, and they can definitely has to balance their system properly. They have to have resources, and if there is a market, they can buy or sell from that market and can balance themselves so that they are not they are not jeopardizing other countries' system and entire system. So this is what from my perspective, and anything else is there that definitely. And then one I think forget I think transmission is one of the important thing. A good transmission system is required for the integration of renewables, because you can you if there is a surplus in any particular region because of say any weather related event, there is a high wind season in somewhere, therefore demand will go down, weather heating demand can go down, so you can export that power to different regions. So that is why integration of different grids, we are already integrated with our neighbors, and further increasing that integration to other countries also is equally important. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Porwal. I think we have brought out almost all important aspects, whether it is the flexible operation of thermal assets, the need for standardization. You also talked about the uh, forecasting and scheduling requirements as we have more and more RE resources, robust transmission planning, and of course, you also talked about the transfer capabilities. All these things are very, very important. I think these are very important aspects as we discuss with the different countries which are in the process of increasing. I think these elements should figure in their planning. Many thanks for your intervention. So now let me come to the Honorable Secretary General. He is talking about Mr. James K. Wahago. Thank you, sir. First of all, ISA has very recently started a lot of interaction with East African Power Pool. In fact, we have had some of the very useful interaction with the West African Power Pool, because power pools in the region plays a very important role, uh, sharing the resources within that region. So I would request is, or from your experience, what are the key areas, interventions, or the capacity building, or the important aspects to be covered so that you have a robust regional operation? Why something important to you, sir?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation to attend this panel. And I'm also glad that we are making a big step tomorrow between ourselves and the ISA in signing a memorandum of understanding, which will help a lot of our countries in developing large-scale solar projects. So regarding the question that you have asked, I think I would categorize the challenges that you have into four through the value chain of renewable energy development in the project. Maybe the first is the policy and regulatory aspects, the second, planning and development, the third, the power markets, and then the last, operation. Of course, there are barriers, but maybe I can talk about those four. So policy and regulatory, we find that there are no clear signals, especially to the private sector, how to come into the region, which, as you said, and other panelists have indicated, the potential in the Eastern African region, including solar. But however, very little investment has occurred so far, in the exception of just a few countries, Kenya. So there needs to be more to be done, and also don't count of the integration of. I think that we are still going through, or they are being formulated in a way. So there should be better regulation and policy formulation in terms of how to value even systems, new technologies which are emerging, such as batteries, which should help the integration of renewables. On planning and development, there's things associated with the renewables, and these are mostly a few, like for instance, environmental and social aspects. Most of these projects are located where the land is owned by communities, and sometimes the communities are not involved in the development, and later on maybe raise some issues. And then on the third, power markets in the Eastern African Power Pool is still in early stages of developing a centralized power market. We are still in some progress. We hope to launch the day-ahead market maybe in the next 15 months or so. So with a larger power market, certainly this can help solve that crisis or that problem, because investors to bigger market, so the market risk is less. When it comes to operations, I'll give a case of case studies in Kenya. I think Kenya is one country where they renewables. I think it was quite fast. We have about wind and solar combined. The installed capacity for a small system of 3,000 is 500 megawatts, which is about 18%. And we have observed in the last 2 years a location where the Turkana wind farm, specifically, which is around 310, with very nice capacity factors of about 60%, one of the best wind sites, I think, in the world. When it comes out of the grid, it brings of the weaknesses on the transmission system. Here, it is a lesser problem because of the large hydro base. So we have also about 400 megawatts of solar and wind. But because of the flexibility of the hydro is easily able to respond because of system doesn't. So other challenges maybe are there for poor interconnections, so that even when a country has depend on others, but that is improving. We anticipate in the next few months we'll have many countries interconnected. We have construction of the HVDC line between Ethiopia and Kenya, and Tanzania. Tanzania is also going to be interconnected with the Southern Africa, and Kenya is connected to Uganda. With these interconnections, it will be easier for the region to share its huge potential, not just within the region, but to the rest of the continent and beyond. So maybe I can stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. James. It's thank you for bringing out the very important factors about the requirement of a robust policy, the system, creating market mechanism, and also be inclusive because the people need to be. You don't face the problems when you develop it. And the other aspect of bringing the connectivity between the regions. I think are very, very important things. I hope as we have collaboration, we can create value out of it so that we can compare the future. Many thanks for your intervention. Now I'm coming to a very large, very small island nation of Fiji. But for me, at times I think if you have a larger capacity, it's easier to manage the renewable power. As we make it very small, flexibility comes down. So even though I'm not from exactly from the energy area, Mr. Tumiosi Naleba, I will request you to talk about because it's a very small island and you also looking at it's a mini grid operation kind of thing, which fits interaction with the grid. So I would request you to highlight some of the challenges and what is your views and how you stand against these challenges so that we can have more meaningful dialogue so that we are able to support you. Over to you, Mr. Timosi. Is it working?
It's okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And thanking you, International Solar Alliance, for coming over to Fiji the last few months. I think this conversation is very important for Fiji to be here and Africa. Although it's small, the two are very limited, and to serve the resources that we have, I think that's the main learning for us. And I'm glad to be here to hear all these things here today. But yeah, for Fiji, it's a very small island in the Pacific. We have about 900,000 people, and we have 332 islands. The island that I come from is Viti Levu. It's as simple as Singapore. Yeah. So, and we've got a population of about 300,000 in that particular island. Yeah, altogether we have about 60% electricity power. And fossil energy. So, solar energy is a bit, simply because of the fear that people have that we have. Why we are not very tuned to solar energy. How it was explained to us by International Solar Alliance, I think we could utilize solar in terms of solarizing our rooftops. Yeah. Sunshine in Fiji is always, all the time. Half of the island we have sunshine all throughout the year, and half of the island we have rain all throughout the year. So we have hydro, that's why it's supplying us with electricity, and an opportunity for us to go into solar. So I think with this, with us coming over to Fiji is a blessing for us, and we have to take all of that opportunity and provide more solar power into our current grid system. And I've alluded to by our moderator that, I'm not an expert in energy. I'm much interested in making sure that we have enough energy in Fiji because we are also accustomed to cyclones every year. So we have power cuts every year during our cyclone season. So with solar coming in, we should be able to have a consistent supply of energy to our homes. Uh, did in a very brief, in a nutshell, what I'm here for, and how I'm so thankful to ISA for inviting Fiji here to be part of this panel and bring this discussion and learn from from Africa and India. So I'm so thankful for this opportunity. Thank you.
And yeah, you have given the various dimensions of your the scenario. It's very important to develop more solar rooftops there, which you are become a prosumer, what you call you're a consumer as well as you are a generator. So the systems needs to be in place to take care of such requirements. So there also the grid integration become very important for that. So many thanks for that, and we hope we'll have more interaction and more support to Fiji in developing robust solar or other variable system. Now coming to a very veteran from World Bank, the lead energy specialist for World Bank, Mr. Chandrasekhar Govindarajulu. I was fortunate to have interaction with you for many years, uh, and ISA has benefited in the initial years of its establishment if your valuable inputs to the organization. Uh, Beyond that, because World Bank is have the across the globe, you have access to various systems, various governments. So I would look for some of the important aspects on the integration of renewable energy from your learnings from various regions or various countries. Over to you, sir.
Uh, Thank you. A lot has been covered by esteemed colleagues. Um, well, okay, before I start my remarks, am so pleased to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. It has been a pleasure to collaborate with ISA and also meet with many familiar colleagues that I've interacted over my career. So yeah, coming to the topic, I think the ground has been on the technical side. The ground has been covered quite extensively. And we also see that just doing a solar IPP program alone is not adequate, and it will not be fully implementable unless you also focus on on the transmission elements properly. So we are doing that in the case of Uzbekistan. We are supporting Uzbekistan in that for their solar program. Also for solar parks, we are supporting Burkina Faso following the India model. So a lot of cross pollination is happening through the World Bank, learning from the experiences around the world. Coming to the issue of this integration, the one area that we have been focusing on is on firming up renewable energy. How can you firm it up better, and what is needed there, and especially with the batteries? Because countries say we want to have whether who has the control of the battery. Does the dispatcher have it? Does the produce private sector has it? And depending on what use cases you want to use. If you want to really maximize the use of the battery, it should be with the power power utility. But if you want to, make it a value proposition for the investor, it should be on the other side and limited to something. And also, it has implications on warranties, guarantees, so many aspects on how you use it. It has got so many implications. So this has been an important issue that we have been trying to grapple with at the World Bank through the energy storage partnership. And And what we have been doing is looking at the various experiences and how the commercial arrangements are there for battery storage. Right from you can go for a blended tariff for solar and storage, or you can go for a solar separate, battery separate, sort of a two-part tariff, or you can say that we need this is the type of supply we need in these hours, and let the private sector decide how they will size the system. So this can be sliced and diced in many ways. So we have been looking at the experiences around the world, all the way from Hawaii uh, uh, to you and India and other places, because there has been a variety of experiences around the world. So depending on these various PPA models, we have now come up with a report summarizing the best practices from around the world, and trying to come out with a PPA, a template PPA that sort of mirrors what countries, whether it is small countries or large countries, will normally use for PPAs, and how can this be similar to that? That has been the idea behind that. We have been working on that together with our IFC colleagues, the private sector arm of the World Bank. So I'm pleased to say that the report is now launched, and we'll be really looking forward to working with ISA, the other colleagues, to now disseminate those learnings. So it includes a template PPA format, as well as all these experiences, and also all these considerations on control and less control and so on. So I will stop there, and we'll come back to any other questions later on. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chandrasekhar Govindarajulu. So, in fact, it's very interesting point which you have brought out, whether it is to be owned by or whose control it will be there. Very interesting aspect. I think this is a good learnings which you are uh, coming out, and I think there can be more discussions on that. Countries can refine it, because I mean, coming days this will have more and more impact as we have more and more storages happening, and very happy that this is a new template which you have been developing in such agreements, and ISA would be very happy to closely associate with the World Bank so that this can be beneficial for all the countries and we can disseminate this information. Many thanks, Mr. Govindarajulu. Coming to my friend Mr. Niroj Chandra Mondal, the Joint Secretary from Bangladesh. Uh, I would request you, sir, about how the international uh, partnership and the learnings and use for your integration of solar energy, or you can have more and more solar energy penetrating your grid, or rather, how would we uh, convince the governments or the utilities that the more solar energy can be useful as a whole for the country? Or do you say?
Thank you, Mr. Ramatji. At first, I thank you, Honorable Director General International Solar Alliance, for inviting me to this great event. Her Excellency Ms. Nima Ba, Chief of Cabinet, Ministry of Energy, Hydraulics and Hydrocarbon, Republic of Guinea. Dear co-panelist, distinguished participant, thank you, Mr. Tyagi, for your excellent presentation. It's elaborative and brief presentation. You cover all the things. And in Bangladesh scenario, the international collaboration, distinguished delegates, the Bangladesh achieved 100% electrification in last year. And this is happened due to the private sector partnership, remember, as well as international collaboration. And you know, our generation pattern, the 50%, almost 50% generations come from private sector. And in total generation, we have some international collaboration. We are importing power from India, more than 1 gigawatt power importing from India. And Bangladesh, but for Bangladesh energy generation, private sector partnership is very important. And we started our private sector participation in 1996. And our first utility scale solar project started in 2014. And this is not so easy to start the utility scale solar project. We have to formulate our institutional policies and framework development. And with this development, we started our journey. Well, and um, the journey before starting this way, and sorry, uh, in a, mic not hear you. Is it working? Okay, okay. The present scenario, about 1200 megawatt of renewable energy capacity of 1200 megawatt in this now, and most of them are for solar. About 800 megawatt from solar energy, and in COP26, our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina desire her expressed to fulfill 40% of our country's energy demand from renewable sources by 2041. Actually, that vision get the momentum to scale up our renewable energy project in our country. And in last year, we added 300 megawatt of solar project in our grid, and we'll be happy to know that more than 30 project capacity of 2000 megawatt renewable energy is under construction, and more than 60 project capacity of 5000 megawatt already approved by the government, and another more than 3000 megawatt renewable energy are in the pipeline for approval. And we are in the most of them are this renewable energy project almost 90% from renewable sources. And in that journey, we always making the collaboration with the international organization as well as regional and sub-regional regional cooperation. You will be happy to know that we have the collaboration between India, Nepal, and as well as Bhutan. And now we are in the process of integrating the grid between among the India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. And in present scenario, we have only 3%, about 3% energy from solar power. And by 2030, we are hoping to add more than 20% energy from solar power. And that is the question, how we integrate that mass of solar power project. And you know, the Bangladesh is a different scenario, country of different perspective. We have no hydro potential. You talk everyone, you have enough hydro potential. We have no hydro potential, and we have no hilly region, so so that we can use the pump storage. We cannot make any pump storage. That we are in a different scenario. All the renewable energy are variable in nature. We have huge solar potential. We have limited potential of wind. All are variable in nature, and that solar, you know, it will available in the daytime. So green integration in our country, it is very difficult to not similar to the other country. So we have to take proper measure, and government will take the improvement of the load management system, that is automatic control of the generation control, and automatic dispatch of the load, and pre-governing mode of operation. We are on the process of implementing this system, and also we are try to incorporate the storage into our solar. The World Bank representative told me it will be helpful for us if World Bank support Bangladesh to make a template PPA integrating the solar and battery storage. That will be very helpful for our country. Without storage, it is not possible to integrate that much of solar energy into the grid. And of course, the regional integration. And I also already mentioned that we have the memorandum of understanding between Bangladesh and India. There is a 765 kV line crossing the eastern part to the toward the Bangladesh in the western part. And this high voltage line will be integrated with the Bangladesh grid. If Indian grid and Bangladesh grid will connect it, it will be synchronized grid. That will be a better solution for Bangladesh to integrate that mass of renewable energy, that is solar energy. And another use the weather forecasting. Weather forecasting is very important. We have to integrate our technology in the forecast the oil so that we can make our demand forecast and make the control the generation. And as well as international collaboration, I have already mentioned. Without international collaboration, it can be possible to integrate that much of renewable energy for Bangladesh. I believe we'll able to address this issue with the development partner, international cooperation, and as well as private sector engagement. Bangladesh is not only uh, generating the renewable energy that according to their requirement, but also pave the way for cleaner, more resilient, and sustainable future. Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very, very interesting, and many thanks, Mr. Mondal. I think uh, one of the key things you also talked about is the integrating in the regional basis. You have more flexibility to operate so that the more renewables can penetrate in the system. So international uh, cooperation is very important, and you are sitting with Mr. Uh, Chandra, of course, he can help you have more. And of course, ISA is also supporting you for having a integrated plan for maybe next 10 years. So very happy to have a close collaboration between ISA and Bangladesh. Many thanks for your inputs. Uh, Last but not the least, because coming years, we are talking more and more private participation in the development of the whole of energy systems, including transmission and development of renewable. So I'm reaching out to Mr. N.K. Panda. He's the Chief Business Acquisition Officer from Sterlite Power. Uh, Over to you, Mr. Panda, because your inputs are much more valuable than what we talked now. Because the coming years, people are looking at private sector and to have the major role in the development of the system. So over to you. And what are the very important aspects or your vision? I would request to you to share with the audience.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, congratulations for conducting such a brilliant congregation of minds where we are all talking about one common goal. I'm NK Panda, and I represent Sterlite Power. Sterlite Power is a leading private transmission player in India and also in Brazil. I think I'll talk about only one aspect, is because looks like I'm the only private player voice here, so it is important to convey this aspect of it. And I also understand that a lot of these countries we spoke about, be it Africa or Fiji, I think one of the important aspects is how you can attract the investors and hence the private organizations who can work together hand in hand with the incumbent players there. So I think clearly, RE is talk of the town. A lot has been done, is being done, will be done in terms of RE. But one of the key success parameters for RE is how successfully you are integrating that to the grid. And that integration is clearly not possible if you don't have massive transmission lines. I'm reiterating massive because I have examples. Hundreds of renewable energy projects are now stuck across the globe because, and they are at the advanced planning stages, and they are not able to move ahead because there is a lack of integration, lack of transmission line. I know of reports which says that in USA and Europe there are some 1,000 gigawatt of solar and some 500 gigawatt of wind power, which are waiting in the interconnection queue to get connected to the grid. So we can develop a lot around RE, but this important aspect, which I think some of us also mentioned, if you don't take care, then you will fail, right? So where there will use, there will be no off takers, and you will not be able to connect to the grid. And also agree to the view of Nigeria. If you don't, I mean, integration and connectivity to the grid is a very important aspect, and that's what transmission fulfills. Um, I think just I want to talk about only three parameters, three key impact. One is how do you create a conducive regulatory or policy framework so that you move in from a incumbent monopoly to a private concessionaire? And I think India and Brazil are the best example. More than India, I think Brazil, I would say there are total $80 billion of investments which have been put in by private concessionaires clubbed together in India and Brazil, and there are great success stories around it. And this necessarily means that when you bring in these private concessionaires, you will have a lot of innovation around the technology, around the maybe the different financing instruments. We have launched one of the successful InvITs. Both Sterlite Power and Power Grid has launched a successful InvITs there in India. And ultimately, consumer will be the winner. They will be able to the cost of the tariff will reduce, and ultimately it will be passed on to the consumer, and consumer will get the benefit. That's one. Second, you move to a availability based contract. So that the point here is that how is that you can incentivize availability? How you can have the right TSA, where you can give a kind of a cushion to the developers, telling that okay, there is sufficient payment security mechanism. There is a in case there is a change in law, you are kind of not you are ensuring that the developers are not penalized. Uh, the more incentives based on availability rather than a standard contract. And the third point here is, the eminent domain. This basically is a mechanism how you create a empowerment or authorization so that the projects get implemented, not stuck because of lack of approvals. In USA and UK, which are the developed countries, the transmission lines have taken around 7 to 10 years, are still taking 7 to 10 years, and here in India we are moving to 18 to 24 months. And I'm sure Power Grid has recently done a project in 24 months record time. Sterlite Power is doing projects before the the contract term, uh, before the COD. That's how we can. So the point here is just to summarize that if you have the right policy and regulatory framework in terms of these three key enablers, I think you will automatically see the more and more of investors and private, concessions getting interested, and then leading to a massive value chain of transmission infrastructure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Panda. It's very important points we have brought out, and I think uh, hope the policymakers, the 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 funding community, or all these forums listen to this and incorporate suitable things in the various mechanism, including which you talked about the way it has been done through private operators in India and Brazil. Many thanks for your inputs. I think uh, 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 create an ecosystem for the private investment is very key. And you also talked about the large requirement of a transmission system to be in place so that we can have more and more renewable power. I think we had a wonderful discussion, and I think we are on time. I will not be able to ask another round of questions. I think this was a great, I would say, for me, I could get a lot of inputs from all the aspects, whether it is on the funding side or in the technical side or on the operation side and the private sector views. And we will assimilate all those information and circulate to all so that these things can be very useful when we design the new systems, and we have a very shared kind of approach so that we grow together. And in fact, one more, we have a very important session tomorrow on One Sun, One World, which uh, what we talk today is amount to the development of that, maybe one of the key approach which the world gets integrated on power. Many thanks to all the panelists. Uh, I will, uh, before concluding, I would like to have a token of our appreciation from ISA to all the Her Excellency and all the people. I'll just, unfortunately, the DG has to go somewhere. Yeah, I'll just press.